back. Another episode. Yes, it's a double whammy. It's 2 in a month for Tumalip the podcast. Episode number 8. We reached lucky number 8, and we are not behind the 8 ball this week. Unfortunately, in front of the 8 ball as always. So, a lot of things have happened over the last couple of weeks. Well, in between the podcasts, literally. The week that we uploaded the last podcast was a pre-Super Bowl treat, and we were treated to quite a Super Bowl between Peyton Manning and Cam Newton. Of course, the controversy that rolled out. Of course, we now have the All-Star game coming up on Sunday, and of course, the University of Hawaii Rainbow Warrior basketball team took over sole control of first place in the Big West Conference last night. With the 74-52 win over UC Irvine. If you're listening to this on the 29th, which is the day this podcast is going to be released, we would have passed the end of the home season for the Rainbow Warriors, and the Rainbow Warrior baseball team will have taken over. And, of course, the Rainbow Warrior volleyball team will have taken over the Terraflex at the Stan Sheriff Center. A couple things that have happened over the last couple of weeks. We've recently got our butts chewed out here at school. I won't say by who because I don't want to get in trouble. And there was something in the water this week about Cam Newton and his post-game comments, which is the subject of...
It's time for today's opening rant.
The opening rant. Yes, I know we could have ranted about a lot of other things this month. We could have ranted about Steph Curry again. We could have ranted about, countless other things. But the Super Bowl, I think, in the minds of many, was an absolute dud. I was kind of disappointed as well, me being a diehard sports fan. I couldn't wait for the matchup to happen between the Panthers and Broncos. What ended up happening, though, was a complete crap show. But none of it came quite as close as to what Cam Newton did. In his post-game comments. And here's what happened. He apparently was sitting in front of Chris Harris Jr., the cornerback for the Broncos, who apparently was celebrating a little too hard. He ended up leaving the podium because he was a little bit frustrated and a little bit tired of the fact that Harris was trying to chew him out and trying to get him down this week. Couple of things first. Cam Newton is the MVP, all right? There's no question. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. But if you lose a Super Bowl, at least try to lose with class, bud. I mean, you cannot go up to the podium and then say, you know what, I'm a sore... Well, that's not what he said. He said he was a sore loser afterwards. But you got to figure, if a player of his caliber, doesn't admit to the fact that his team single-handedly lost the game, they dropped passes that they should have probably caught, they had untimely turnovers, they missed a field goal. All these miscues came into focus, and I think the Broncos' defense severely showed the Panthers gaps. They had gaps on offense, they had some gaps on defense, they had some gaps even on special teams. Graham Gano, the most accurate kicker for the Panthers, he didn't even do diddly squat. He missed a 41-yard field goal and hit it off the upright in the third quarter. That's how bad it was for the Panthers all night. Even more so, they didn't get a touchdown after the first touchdown they scored with Jonathan Stewart after the first half. I suppose you know why we're talking about this, because of the post-game comments by Cam Newton. If you're going to lose a Super Bowl, do it with class. At least Colin Kaepernick, Jim Harbaugh, who else? Tom Brady. Those guys all lose with class. They go up and they shake people's hands. They go up and they give each other respect at the podium. If you're not going to go up there and give respect at the podium, why are you playing in a Super Bowl? You win with humility, you lose with humility. My mom always says, it's easy to win, it's hard to lose. And it's especially hard to lose a Super Bowl. Believe me, I've been there. I'm a 49ers fan. I'm not afraid to show it. I know how it feels to lose a Super Bowl. Heck, I know how it feels to lose the NFC Championship game. It's painful. It hurts. It takes you a while to get over it. But after a while, you say, nah, that game was a bit of a gaffe. We'll go back and we'll get it next time. That's the mindset the Panthers need to have for 2016. They need to figure out right now that this was just a flash in the pan, that they can come back, and they can, and they will bounce back from this gaffe, because trust me, it ain't happening again. But you go back, it almost pales in comparison to the Seahawks. And I've said it on many occasions, I don't like the Seahawks, and I don't like the way they play. And I especially did not like the way they lost versus the Patriots in the Super Bowl and the Panthers. And the Panthers in the NFC division round. If you are going to lose Lose with class. And I'm speaking especially to the Seattle Seahawks. Don't start a fight. Don't start scrapping with other players because you know what? It's over. You lost. Get over it. This is the same mantra Cam needs to have right now. You lost. Get over it. It's just a flash in the pan. You'll do better next year. You're the MVP. So what? Just go out there and perform the way you're supposed to perform. There is no other substitute for a better performance in a Super Bowl than Cam Newton could have had 2 Sundays ago. So, well, actually, it was not 2 Sundays ago. The way you're listening to this, it'll be the 3 Sundays ago you're listening to this because we have 5 Mondays this month. So anyway, getting back to the Super Bowl. Boy, what a game that was. It started off with the Peyton Manning field goal, with a field goal by Brandon McManus on the opening drive, and I think the Broncos took over from there. Truthfully, yes, I was wrong. I picked the Panthers to win the Super Bowl. I'm eating my words right now. I literally ate my words because I thought the Panthers were going to come out so focused and so strong that they may have put up 21 points on the Broncos in a matter of seconds. But it didn't come to pass. It didn't even get close. Peyton Manning took the ball down the field and did exactly what you expected him to do in a Super Bowl. He played with precision. He played creative. He played crafty. I think, in my mind, that's exactly where a Super Bowl quarterback needs and has to be. You have to be in that right mindset at the right time to perform as well as you did in a Super Bowl. Heck, the Broncos had only 194 yards total offense, the least ever for a Super Bowl champion. And they dominated. They dominated defensively. 4 turnovers, a forced missed field goal. They forced 7 3-and-outs. I think that defense deserves all the accolades for what they did on Sunday, on the 4 Sundays ago against the Denver Broncos. I think they deserve it. I'm giving them the accolades. I don't know about everybody else. I don't know about all the Panthers fans. I don't know about all the Broncos fans, but certainly the Broncos fans are giving them accolades. You have to. You have to give them credit for the way they played. There is no substitute for a good performance. There's only substitute for a better performance. That's my mantra. That's what I would think, in my opinion. So the Broncos win the Super Bowl 24-10 over the Carolina Panthers. Peyton Manning had 13 to 23 passing for just 184 yards. That's unheard of, and an interception. But Cam Newton, I think, had the worst of it. He was 8 for 19 in the first half. And you could see on his face, he was clearly frustrated. Every hit that he took, every single sack that he had, every single hit he took, every incomplete pass he threw, his fuse got shorter and shorter, and I think it overboiled when at the end, he was pushed by Derek Wolfe in the end zone, and he ended up screaming to Colette Blakeman for a flag, and there was none of them laundry flying onto the field. And he smacked the turf. And I think that was a clear sign who was going to win the Super Bowl, because you ain't going to win if you're frustrated. If you play mad, if you're mad in your head, you're going to play mad, and you're going to make mistakes. Don't try to get it all back at once. You're just going to make more mistakes. I think that's what Cam Newton needs to learn. He needs to learn that, even though he's the best player in the league, everybody gives him all the accolades, he's still not up to a standard as of yet. But trust me, in the next few years, he will be. So the Broncos won the Super Bowl, as I said, but a lot of heat was on the halftime show this year, especially for Coldplay. I feel so bad for Coldplay. This is the thing. When the NFL selected Coldplay as the performers at halftime for Super Bowl 50 back in December, it got a lot of negative reaction, and I mean a lot. People don't realize that there are a lot of Coldplay fans out here in the United States. There are generally a lot of fans of Coldplay because they like that kind of music. If you don't like that kind of music, why don't you pitch an idea to vote? It's the NFL's decision, not yours. And I think that's why they put in Beyonce and Bruno Mars. Beyonce got a lot of accolades, and so did Bruno Mars. But you know what? The one thing is, I can't stand it when the NFL puts these kind of performers in. If the Coldplay is boring, get somebody else. Let the fans vote for once. But if I'm a fan right now, and I'm pitching a hiss about Coldplay being in the Super Bowl, why don't I just get up and vote for somebody? That's what we all should do. If we don't like the decision by the NFL, we deal with it. That's all we can do. We can't control it. I can't control if they put Bruno Mars in. I can't control if they put Beyonce. I can't even control if they do a card stunt at the end. That card stunt, by the way, was phenomenal. That was an awesome card stunt they did. But some wisecrack on Instagram commented after, that's too gay. Are you serious? Really? You think a card stunt in a rainbow is gay? Why don't you come up to me, whoever commented on Instagram about that card stunt, and say it to my face? Because I will advocate for every single person that is LGBT in this country. You offended a lot of them. That's why I hate these commenters who come onto Instagram and comment on, oh, this looks that, oh, this looks this. Fine. So what? Who cares? You're the wisecrack that ruins it for every single person that comments on an Instagram photo. That one wisecrack gets screwed up for everybody else. Whoever said it on Instagram, I don't know who you are, but you should be ashamed of yourself. You offended literally every single person in this country by saying that. And for those who don't find it offensive, that's fine. I don't care. I could give a rip less. You're listening to Tumalip the podcast. Now that we just went in depth about Coldplay, I think the halftime show could have been a little better. Okay, I'll just say it. It stunk. The halftime stunk. I don't like Beyonce. I don't like Bruno Mars. I'm saying it straight up. I don't like them. They are the epitome of this generation. Beyonce, not so much. Beyonce's pretty clean. Bruno Mars, Look up on the Star Advertiser. Go look him up on the website. He actually got arrested for drugs. That's why I can't stand him. I literally can't stand Bruno Mars. His music is really grating. I mean, you listen to his music. I mean, girls, I don't give a rip. I don't like his music, so there, I said it. Coldplay, I like their music. Two of their songs that I like, Paradise and Sky Full of Stars. Those are my two favorite songs from Coldplay. I don't have any favorite songs from Beyonce because I don't listen to Beyonce that much. I'm going to say it straight up. I don't listen to her. But Bruno Mars, I just hate him. I don't like Bruno Mars, period. I hate him like I hate the Golden State Warriors. Hey, I hate them with a vengeance right now. And we're bringing up the Golden State Warriors again because now they're 48-4, and ESPN is literally featuring them every single week. I mean, come on. What if the Celtics were 48-4 right now? What if the Thunder were in the same position right now? Would you do the same thing? Absolutely they would. But this is Golden State. Like I said, it'll come time for their championship window to close. And the last time I've seen a team as cocky as this, oh yeah, the Boston Celtics were as cocky. It's going to come around, like I said. I'm not going to go into this rant again. We already said it once, I'm not going to say it again. So getting to the subject now of Hawaii Rainbow Warrior basketball, if you saw it on February the 11th, Hawaii took over sole control of first place in the Big West Conference. Near sold-out crowd of 9,826 tickets sold of 10,300 possible. 8,176 through the 716 through the turnstile gates last night. And how about the students? 1,101 were reported by Kaleo Sports. And then some wisecrack comes on Twitter and says, oh, but at UC Irvine averages 1,100 a game. Yeah, well, you guys don't have party theme nights like we do. There, I said it. I think what really brings to life Rainbow Warrior basketball is that it's fun. Aron Ganot, give credit to him. He's letting the guys go out there and have fun, but they're running plays. They're running succinct plays that are standard to the balanced offense that Hawaii runs. Yes, they shot a lot of threes in that particular game against Irvine. They put up 30, but they made 14. That's tied for the best, by the way, in Hawaii Rainbow basketball history, of 14 of 30 from downtown and 47% from three-point land. Roderick Bobbitt was on fire too. 6 to 10 for three-point land, 23 points in that game. I think Hawaii, though, is best defensively when they were holding down Mamadou Ndiaye. Mamadou Ndiaye, by the way, for those of you who don't know, he's 7'6", 300 pounds, and his wingspan is 8'3". They double-teamed him. They frustrated him. In that game, you can go back and watch the highlights on YouTube. Just look up OC Sports TV, and you can click on UC Irvine versus Hawaii highlights. They frustrated them. They really did. And here's an interesting stat. Ioannis Demokopoulos and Mamadou Ndiaye were both held to 3 of 13 combined shooting and 10 total points. All 10 of those points were by Mamadou Ndiaye. And best of all, here's the crazy stat. No blocks. And you would think by an 8'3" wingspan, you'd think you'd have one or two blocks in there. But Ndiaye did not get any blocks last night versus UH. That was a pretty amazing stat to me. So Hawaii now, here's the rest of their schedule. They will play Cal State Fullerton upcoming on the 13th. Then they will play UC Riverside on the 25th, and then close out the home slate with a senior night whiteout against CSUN. And they'll go on the road to play CSUN first at the Matadome and then UC Irvine, and then they close out the schedule at Davis and Long Beach State. So here are the standings right now. At the end of this month, the podcast we'll give you the updated statistics at in the March podcast, which I'm going to do live from Whistler, coming that soon. Here are the stats from that. The standings right now as of February 11th. We'll give you the updated stats next podcast in March. Hawaii now stands alone atop the Big West at 8-1. Long Beach State now 7-3. They're 1.5 games back of Hawaii, but they're a half game back of second place Irvine, who is now 7-2 in conference play, and then it rounds out the bottom half, and everyone else is just a 4-horse race for the third spot for the fourth spot, because basically all it's going to come down to is Hawaii, UC Irvine, and Long Beach. Long Beach is athletic, Hawaii is athletic, and UC Irvine's big. I think those are going to be the three teams to watch for in the Big West tournament. And of course, we're going to recap the Big West tournament next podcast, and let's look ahead to the NCAA tournament. Oh wait, we're going to recap until the Sweet 16, I think. So that's all for UH basketball right now. I know I'm spending a lot of national sports, but it's the national sports scene I'm really worried about right now. But here we go again with the politics and Donald Trump again. Now, everybody's been talking about it. I know everyone's been talking about Donald Trump, Trump doing this, Trump doing that. But what about Sanders and Clinton? Sanders and Clinton, I mean, that could come down to that could be a 2-horse race. But I will tell you what, right now, my mom told me in the car, we have either a choice right now between a racist jerk in Trump, and a money guzzler in Bernie Sanders. Now, I know you can get on me for saying he's a money guzzler, Bernie Sanders, but he's really not. We're just calling him that for, like, political purposes. It's not politically correct. But I think the one thing that would make this country really look bad was if Donald Trump, a tycoon billionaire, takes over as president. I mean, do we really want that? I mean, you've listened to all his comments. You've listened to his racist comments. He's made fun of Muslims. He made fun of Mexicans. He made fun of Latinos, Hispanics. Every single person in America he's offended except for white supremacists. I'm being technical here because white supremacists are the lone people that follow Trump on his tail because they kiss up to him. And then they give them all their money, and then they just run off and they just spread propaganda across America. I think it's time for Trump to cap the campaign. He must not become president. As of this day, as of this time, right now, America, do not vote for Donald Trump. I'm saying it right now. Don't vote for Trump. Because he's just going to drag this country into the mud. Watch. You vote for him, he's going to drag us into the mud. And I don't care if this tape gets all the way to Trump's ears. Let him listen to it and let him suffer. Let him suffer the consequences right now. So everyone go out there, and I'm being really realistic right now. Tell your friends not to vote for Donald Trump. If you're over 18, so be it. If you're under 18, probably don't do it. Just tell your parents. And if your parents don't believe you, try tell them to go watch Trump, what Trump's done. I would have put a montage together, but it's not politically correct, and I don't want to offend anybody in America, and I don't want to bring this up again. So basically, let's go back. What have we talked about? We talked about the Super Bowl. We've talked about the University of Hawaii basketball team. We talked about UH sports. We talked about Trump now. And I think it'd be nice if we end with a little segment about school. So here it is, guys. Here's the bottom line right now. School's hard. School's difficult. I know it's tough. Ask my mom. She knows what it's like to be a senior. And my flash drive just hit the floor. That was a clattering sound you just heard on the mic. If you think, and I think Miss Cameron said it best, if you think this is hard, high school's hard, try waiting for college. College is going to be a lot harder than this, I can tell you right now. because right now we all think our lives are important, and I do that sometimes. I'm a teenager. We all have problems. But one day we're gonna have to self-discipline ourselves and say, you know what? There's a time and a place for everything. We have to do what we have to do. It's the same thing in the workplace. Find a time and space to do what you want to do, and then you come back and then you do what you do what you want. Find a place for where you can do what you want to do, and then come back the next day and do what your boss wants to do. That's it. That's all we need to say. That's all we ever need to know. I think, that's the toughest thing about being in school. You learn to self-discipline yourself. Because once you leave the doors of your old house, then that's when reality hits you, and that's when it takes over. I think that's all we need to say. That's all we need to know. Past the 20-minute point, as I pick up my flash drive here on Tumalip the podcast, episode number 8. So what have we done so far in this podcast? Well, we ran in the short stints of this podcast. Rest assured, this is going to go over the last... Tumalip and friends. Excuse me, I'm belching a lot into the mic here. I'm sorry. It's going to go over Tumalip and Friends podcast. Episode 9. Ragus is looking at me in the other room. Let me describe this to you right now, where I am right now. I'm in the studio, as we call it, and I'm going to re-describe it to you. To my right-hand side, our St. Francis curtain is there, and the old podcast set is up there as well. And then, off to my northeast right-hand side, the green screen's up there, and then there's all the soundproof, the costume design sets and stuff. And then behind me are some movie posters for Spider-Man 3 and the first original Transformers. That's basically what this place is. It's a studio, and we built this 2 years ago, and I feel very fortunate we have to do it. Okay, so the first episode, for those just joining us, the first episode we talked about a lot of stuff, and I think it was a very fun time for us, because I actually got back to doing what I like to do, and I love broadcasting, and I love podcasting, and so I think that really helps me alleviate some stress. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to do like a cap on this podcast, and we got to go off to an American Sign Language social, because we're filming for Hikino on Mary Lou Beale. And one other thing this week, Kelly Okubo, one of my good friends, yes, I finally got the balls to ask her out via audio message, and I did the dumbest thing that anyone should have ever done, as I sent her my location. So I'm trying to look for a response. Once I get the response, then I will probably tell her, sorry, someone was messing around with my phone, because that's what every guy does, doesn't they? Don't they? I mean, we're all dorks in some way. Anyway, if you want the full transcript of the message, there really isn't one transcript of the message, because I really came up with it off the top of my head. And then, of course, I pitched a hiss, and kind of made it sound like I was desperate. I kind of feel ashamed of myself for doing that. So, speaking of Hikino now, to put a little capper on this podcast, if you want to see the segment where I embarrassed myself on television, go back and look on the pbshawaii.org page on YouTube, and you can find Hikino full programs. It's episode number 700. I think it's 711, hosted by Kamehameha Hawaii on the Big Island of Keao. And they have the full What I Learned segment on the end of that episode. And you can watch me and Jason Sonito, my co-editor, on the episode where we edited for Manny Matos, who is a retired Honolulu Police Department officer. He now is a full-time Hawaiian weapons enthusiast, and he recently did a presentation for us out in his home in Kunia. It was actually very nice. And you can also hear myself interview. You can hear Jason Sonito get an interview, my co-editor and my scriptwriter on that episode. And you can also hear the reporter Michael Delicata on the other half of what he thought was a terrible experience for him, but in many ways it was mutually beneficial. Again, you can go watch that episode on the YouTube. And speaking of which, we're going to go film for B-roll for Mary Lou Beale's profile on Hikino. So if anyone out there is a St. Francis alum and they're watching this podcast right now, or listening to this podcast right now, if anyone is a St. Francis student, in fact, listening to this podcast, I want you to go to digital media at stfrancis-oahu.org and kind of submit some ideas for us for a story. We want to do a story for Hikino, so we want to kind of get your take on what we should do for Hikino. So I'm going to leave the comments section open below the podcast, below on this podcast, and if you guys have any good ideas for anyone listening in Hawaii in general, or as a St. Francis student who's watching this podcast, you can comment on the YouTube below, and you can tell us what you want as a story. But it has to be one of three things: is it attention grabbing? Is it a viable issue? And is it is it good enough to work on? That has to be the three criteria we have to meet. So I'm gonna put some in the description, and then you guys can come over and help us out, because we really want to do a story. We've been itching for one for the last 3 or 4 years. So I can see Ragus is going over there, Wake Up Minji right now, and it's 4:05, and just after 4 o'clock here, and we're going to leave it around 4:30, and I want to put this in my file. So that's going to do it for this month's edition of Tumalip the podcast. Hey, you guys got a double whammy. For the first time for the first time in a long time, we've done 2 podcasts in the same month. When we did our pre-Super Bowl preview on last week, and now this week. And now at the end of the month, we're going to release this one. So it was a great time, everybody. And you'll notice little different intro titles this month. If you notice, I'm a very big fan of Sherlock, played by, of course, Benedict Cumberbatch. I have the complete second season, and I believe the special and part of the 3rd season of Sherlock. And boy, that's a great show. If you want to watch, go on YouTube and just search Sherlock, and you'll come up with the official YouTube page. You can go watch all the videos. You can look up Sherlock BBC Worldwide on YouTube, and you can find all the videos there as well. You can actually look at the full soundtracks as well on iTunes, and you can actually listen to the full soundtracks on YouTube. But maybe our David Arnold and Michael Price, boy, those guys have some talents in the musical department. Looks like Minji's pitching a hiss over there right now, and Ragus and her are fighting right now. And it looks like Micah's coming to get me, so that's going to do it for this month's edition of Tumalip the podcast, February. For those that, happy belated Valentine's Day. If we release this out, since we're releasing this after Valentine's Day, happy belated President's Day, and we will see you in March. Coming soon. Goodbye.